So let's now move on to exploring our data a bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm just adding new data from this folder, and I'm going to select both of those. Alright, so there they are displayed. Just to recap what we had a look at earlier, if I go to properties here, I will find that this one is in Hartbeespoort 1994, while this one, the WGS 1984 projection. So two different geographic coordinate systems, but if we go to the properties here, the wrong one, right click here, data frame properties, we'll find that the on-the-fly projection or system here is the GCS WGS 1994, so geographic coordinate system WGS 1994, because that's the first data set that the software read can allocate this system, this coordinate system. Okay, so everything is displayed as such, but let's say we want to change that, so I'm just going to change this to a projected system now. I'm going to go to Africa, that one again, say yes, there we go, and now it's being displayed as a projected coordinate system. And the nice thing about this now, I can start using it to do some measurements. Okay, so let's say the first thing I want to explore is just to measure the distance between 2 points. So I can click on the measure tool here, and here I can decide I want to do distance, and I want to do it in kilometers or meters or miles or whatever. I'm going to choose kilometers, and then I can just click on 2 points and I can calculate the distance between them. Okay, so that's basic tools you can use to investigate the spatial data. But each and every data set is made up of two components. The spatial component, which is in this case the points and polygons, and the non-spatial component, which is the descriptive information describing the point and the polygon and the line. And the way in which I access that is by right-clicking and going to Open Attribute Table. So I'm going to drag it in here, and here you will find all the descriptive information for a layer. Now the attribute table is made up of columns and rows. So the columns here you can see have titles, giving you an idea of what is contained in them, name of the school, the address of the school, the street, the mobile number, the email address, etc. And then there's also rows. Now the rows, the way they work is, let's say I want to look at one of these schools, there's a little tool that's called Select Features. Okay, and there's different ways in which we can use it. I'm just going to use the default here. Just click it, and then you can click on a feature. Okay, so now you see it selected that school there, but also the province. Okay, so that's because both of these layers are marked as selectable. Okay, so I can go here and I can change that. I can say I don't want to be able to select from provinces as well, or I want to be able to select from provinces. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn that off, make it not selectable. So now I can just click on the various schools and it will only select the schools for me. Okay, well that's not so important. But anyway, so I select the school there. If I now open the attribute table, you can see here at the bottom it states 1 out of 27,000 odd schools selected. And if I click that icon there, show selected records, it only shows me that school. Okay, so this is just to illustrate the point that each of these rows represents one of the features in the data set. So if I were to jump around, select other schools now, because there's so many, I actually selected more than one, it only shows the selected one. I can also do this, left click and drag and select 1,000 of them. Okay, and so this just illustrates the point that each of these points represents one of the rows in the attribute table. Okay, so that's how the attribute table, the logic of it works. Okay, so now let me unselect. There's a button there, clear selected features. You see it just disappeared. Nothing is displayed, 0 selected, and I go back to seeing everything. Alright, so these are all my non-spatial descriptive information for all my features listed in the attribute table. So that's the basic logic of the attribute table. Now I can use this to find information about features. So for instance, I can go and I can say I want to know which of these schools have X amount of learners. So I can go to this column and I can double click it. It's going to take a while. and it sorts it from the lowest number to the highest number, and then I can say, all right, I'm interested in, in the schools that's got more than, for example, 2,000 learners, and there I can select those schools. So if I drag this away, you can see those schools are now being shown to me. That's where they are, the schools with more than 2,000 learners. And I can count them. I can see there's 22 schools with more than X amount of learners, for instance. And this you can do for all the different columns and the information contained, all the different variables basically that you have for a feature. So that's a way in which you can use your attribute table to extract information and to learn new things about your features that you have in your data set. So I would encourage you to open your software to add this data and explore your attribute table and your non-spatial information a bit, and see what you can learn, and see what you can do. What information can you extract from these tables? And later on in the module, we're going to look at ways in which we can do more complex queries with these attribute tables. But for now, just explore the basics, select features, sort your attribute table, and do things like that. Another thing I want to show you is a way in which you can add more information to your attribute table. So let's say you want to add a new column here. There's new information that you would like to capture for each and every school. We can click here on this icon, that little drop down arrow there, and there's an option, add field. If I click add field, it allows me to type in a name for a field. So let's call it new field, and it asks you what type of field should this be. Okay, and you've got a selection of integers, floats, doubles, text, dates. So for instance, if it's text that you want to type descriptive information, it would be a text. If it's something you want to use in a calculation, it would be a double, for instance, which allows you to add decimals, or an integer, okay, which is whole numbers. So, or it might be a date. So let's say for now it's just a text, but you need to define that. You can also stipulate how many characters of text should be allowed. The default is 50. I'm just going to say okay, and now there's a new field added. But note, I can't type any information in there. Okay, it's locked. That's because I first need to start editing. Okay, now to add new information, I right click again on the schools, I go to edit features, I click on start editing. Right click, edit features, start editing. I can just say continue, and if I now open up the attribute table again and I navigate to my new field, you can see it's displayed in white. And if I click there, I can actually now start typing in new information for each and every school. Okay, so that's the way in which you can add new data. And once I'm done, I need to go to editor. This toolbar will automatically open up when you start editing, and I need to say save my edits, and when I'm done, say stop editing. Now important, when I'm busy editing, I'm unable to add new fields. Okay, so you can't add a new field while you are busy editing. Okay, so that's just an important rule that you need to remember. Okay, so let's say I'm done. I can just say save my edits. Now they are saved here. And if I'm totally done, I can say stop editing. And what you'll see, it turns back to gray, and now it is locked again. But that information has been captured. So what editing also allows us to do is, let's say there's a location of a new school that we know where it is. You can also go to edit features, start editing, and you'll find a create features tab down here. If it's not being displayed, you just click there and it will be added. Okay, so if I click on that, it tells me, okay, you want to edit schools. I click on that schools, and you can see a little dot now added to the icon, and if I click it, a new feature is added. Okay, so here I can add new schools, and then I have to type in the information in the attribute table as well. Okay, they will be at the bottom, way here at the bottom. They should be. Okay, it's usually what happens when we demonstrate stuff, it's not showing. Okay, but it usually should show there at the bottom, and you will be able to add your descriptive information for those new features that you captured. So that's basically ways in which you can edit. I'll expand on this a bit in the next video as well. Alright, so that's basically exploring your data a bit, opening your attribute table, ways in which you can add new information to your attribute table, and also start adding new features. So play around with your tutorial data a bit and see what you can figure out.